I grew up in Rocinha, Rio de Janeiro. It's one of the largest favelas in South America, where nearly 70,000 people live stacked on a hillside overlooking São Conrado. From my window, I could see the luxury condominiums below, the beaches of São Conrado and Barra stretching into the distance, the hang gliders floating down from Pedra Bonita. In Rio, there are two distinct worlds: the favelas on the hills, where life is loud and colorful and complicated, and the rich neighborhoods below by the beach, where everything is clean and quiet and expensive. I was from the hills. He was from Leblon, one of the most expensive neighborhoods in all of Latin America. My name is Camila, and this is the story of how I discovered my boyfriend had been hiding me for 3 years, telling his friends I was just his cleaning lady from the favela, and this is how I destroyed him. My mother raised me and my younger brother alone. My father left when I was 8, went to São Paulo for work, and never came back. Mom worked as a housekeeper for a family in Ipanema, leaving the house at 5 in the morning and returning at 7 at night, 6 days a week. She made enough to keep us fed, to keep me in school, to make sure we had what we needed, but never more than that. Growing up in Rocinha, you learn early that the world sees you a certain way. Favelado. That word carries so much weight in Rio. It's not just about where you live, it's about who people think you are. Dangerous, uneducated, less than. I watched my mother come home exhausted every single day, her hands raw from cleaning other people's houses, and I promised myself I would be different. I would study. I would work. I would prove that where you're from doesn't define where you're going. By the time I was 23, I was working as an assistant at a dental clinic in Botafogo during the day and taking night classes in business administration at a community college. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. I was building something. I had dreams of opening my own business someday, maybe a catering service. Something that would let me be my own boss. My friends from Rocinha were proud of me. My mother was proud of me. And I was proud of myself. That's when I met Rafael. It was at a community cooking class in Botafogo, one of those programs funded by some nonprofit trying to promote social integration. The idea was to bring together people from different neighborhoods, different social classes, to cook and eat together, break down barriers through food, or whatever the pamphlet said. I signed up because I loved cooking and because it was free. Rafael was there, he told me later, because his mother had forced him. She was on the board of the nonprofit and insisted he participate to look good for the family image. He was 25 years old, tall, with perfect hair that looked effortlessly messy, wearing a white linen shirt and designer jeans that probably cost more than my monthly rent. He had this watch on his wrist, a Rolex that caught the light every time he moved his hand. Everything about him screamed money. Old money. The kind of money that doesn't need to be loud because everyone already knows it's there. We were partnered together to make moqueca, a Brazilian fish stew. He had no idea what he was doing. He tried to cut the onions and nearly took off his finger. I couldn't help but laugh. "Here, let me show you," I said, taking the knife from his hands. Our fingers touched for a second, and he looked at me with these incredibly green eyes and smiled. "I'm Rafael, by the way." "Camilla," I said, focusing on the onions because his smile was doing something strange to my stomach. "You're really good at this," he said, watching me work. "My mom taught me," I replied. "She's an amazing cook." "What does she do?" "She works as a housekeeper," I said. And I saw something flicker across his face. Not judgment exactly, but recognition. Understanding of where I fit in the social hierarchy of Rio. "And where are you from, Camilla?" "Rocinha," I said, meeting his eyes, daring him to have a problem with it. He just nodded. "Cool. I've never been inside, but I've driven past it. It looks incredible from the outside. All the houses stacked up like that. Most people from the Zona Sul, the rich neighborhoods, talked about Rocinha like it was a war zone. They'd never been there, never talked to anyone who lived there, but they had opinions, strong opinions. Rafael's response surprised me. We spent the rest of the class talking, laughing, cooking together. He told me about his life, how he was supposed to be working at his father's import business, but mostly just showed up for meetings and pretended to care. How his parents had expectations he didn't want to live up to. How he felt trapped in a life that looked perfect from the outside but felt empty. I told him about my dreams, about wanting to open my own business, about taking night classes and working during the day. He listened, really listened, not with pity, not with condescension, but with genuine interest. By the end of the class, he asked for my number. "Can I take you to dinner sometime?" he asked. I hesitated. Guys like Rafael didn't date girls like me. That was just how Rio worked, but there was something in his eyes, something that felt real. "Okay," I said. "Okay." He picked me up for our first date 2 weeks later. He texted me the address where he'd pick me up, and I gave him the entrance to Rocinha, the main road where the buses and vans stop. I didn't invite him inside, not because I was ashamed, but because I knew he wouldn't be comfortable. Rich people from Leblon didn't come into the favelas. They just didn't. He pulled up in a silver BMW and I got in, feeling immediately out of place. The car smelled like leather and expensive cologne. The seats were heated. There was a screen in the dashboard that looked like something from a spaceship. "You look Beautiful, he said, and I believed him because of the way he was looking at me. We went to a small Italian restaurant in Copacabana, nothing too fancy, but nice enough that I felt underdressed in my simple black dress. He ordered wine, asked me about my day, told me stories about his friends that made me laugh. The dinner lasted 3 hours. We talked about everything: music, movies, dreams, fears. When he dropped me off that night, back at the entrance to Rocinha, he kissed me. It was soft and gentle and made me feel like I was floating. "Can I see you again?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "Yes." The first 6 months were like a dream. Raphael texted me every morning. "Good morning, beautiful." He took me to movies, to restaurants, to the beach on weekdays when it was less crowded. We spent weekends at his apartment in Leblon, a beautiful 2-bedroom place on the 8th floor of a building that had a doorman, a pool, a gym, and a concierge who looked at me like I didn't belong every time I walked through the lobby. His apartment was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of the ocean, furniture that looked like it came from a magazine, a kitchen with appliances I'd never seen before. Everything was white and clean and perfect. Too perfect, almost. Like no one really lived there. But when we were together, alone in that apartment, it felt like the rest of the world didn't exist. He'd cook for me, or I'd cook for him, and we'd eat on the balcony watching the sunset over the water. We'd watch movies on his enormous television. We'd talk for hours about everything and nothing. He made me feel special, like I was the only person in the world who mattered to him. But there were signs, small things that didn't add up, things I ignored because I wanted so badly to believe this was real. The first time I noticed something was wrong was about 2 months into dating. We were at his apartment, lying on the couch watching a movie, when his phone rang. He glanced at the screen and his whole body tensed. "I have to take this," he said, getting up and walking out to the balcony. Through the glass door, I could see him talking, his free hand gesturing animatedly. He was smiling, laughing, relaxed in a way he hadn't been a second before. When he came back inside, I asked, "Who was that?" "Just Marco, a friend from school. He wants to grab drinks this weekend." "Oh," I said. "Can I come?" He hesitated. "Just for a second, but I saw it. I don't think you'd like it, babe. It's just going to be a bunch of guys talking about boring stuff, sports and business and whatever. You'd be bored." I wanted to argue, to say that I could decide for myself if I'd be bored, but I didn't. I just nodded. "Okay." He kissed my forehead. "You're the best, you know that?" I smiled, but something felt off. It kept happening. Friends calling, him stepping out of the room to talk, plans being made that never included me. I started to notice a pattern. Whenever we went out, it was always to places far from Leblon. Far from Ipanema, far from where his friends would be. We'd go to restaurants in Botafogo, in Copacabana, sometimes in Centro. Never the trendy spots in Leblon where I knew people his age hung out. Never the bars and clubs his friends posted about on Instagram. And speaking of Instagram, that was another thing. Raphael was always on social media, always posting stories, pictures of the beach, the gym, food, his car. But I was never in any of them, not once. At first, I thought maybe he was just private about his relationship. Some people are like that. But then I noticed he had no problem posting pictures with his friends, with his family, with random people at parties, just not with me. One night, about 4 months in, I brought it up. We were at his apartment, eating dinner I had cooked, and I said, "Raphael, why don't you ever post pictures of us?" He looked up from his plate, surprised. "What do you mean?" "On Instagram. You post all the time, but never anything with me." He shrugged. "I don't know. I just like to keep my private life private, I guess. Social media is so fake, you know? Everyone performing for likes and validation. What we have is real. Why do we need to broadcast it?" It sounded reasonable. It sounded mature even, but it didn't feel right. "If you're so private, why do you post pictures with your friends all the time?" I asked. He put his fork down. "Camilla, are you seriously starting a fight about Instagram right now?" "I'm not starting a fight. I'm just asking." He sighed. "My friends are different. That's just casual stuff. You're important to me. I don't want to cheapen what we have by making it into content for social media. Do you understand?" I nodded, but I didn't understand. Not really. What I understood was that he had a reason for everything, a justification for every weird thing I noticed, and I kept accepting those justifications because I didn't want to lose him. Then there were the times we ran into people he knew. It happened maybe 4 or 5 times over the course of our relationship. Once at the supermarket in Botafogo. Once at a movie theater, once walking near the Lagoa. Each time, his whole demeanor would change. He'd get nervous, his voice would get louder, more performative, and when he introduced me, it was always the same. "This is Camilla." That's it. No context. No, "this is my girlfriend." No, "we've been dating for however many months." Just Camilla, like I was a colleague or a distant acquaintance. The first time it happened, I thought maybe he just forgot. The second time, I started to wonder. By the third time, I knew something was wrong. After the third time, when we were walking away from the 2 guys he'd run into near the Lagoa, I said, "Why don't you ever tell people I'm your girlfriend?" "What?" he said, playing dumb. "When you introduce me to people you know, you never say I'm your girlfriend. You just say my name." He laughed, but it sounded forced. "Camilla, come on. People can tell." "It's obvious we're together, is it?" I asked, because it doesn't feel obvious. He stopped walking and turned to face me. What is this really about? Are you insecure? Do you need me to announce to every random person we run into that you're my girlfriend? Is that what you need for validation? I felt like I'd been slapped. No, I said quietly. I don't need validation. I just want to understand why you act so weird whenever we see people you know. He softened, reaching for my hand. I'm sorry, baby. I didn't mean to snap. It's just, I don't know. I guess I'm not used to being in a serious relationship. I've never introduced anyone as my girlfriend before. It's new for me. This made sense. It was vulnerable and honest and exactly what I needed to hear. I squeezed his hand. Okay, I get it. We're figuring this out together, right? Right, he said, kissing me. And I let it go again. Looking back now, I realize how good he was at this, at making me feel like I was the problem, like I was being paranoid or insecure or demanding. He had an answer for everything, and every answer made me doubt myself just a little bit more. By the time we hit the 1-year mark, I had stopped asking questions. I had learned to accept the way things were. We spent most of our time at his apartment. I'd stay over 3, sometimes 4 nights a week. I'd cook for him. We'd watch movies. We'd fall asleep tangled up in his expensive sheets. During the day, I'd go to work at the dental clinic, then to my night classes, and he'd do whatever it was he did. We had a routine. It was comfortable, and I convinced myself that comfortable was enough. My friends started asking questions. Camilla, when are we going to meet this guy? My best friend Juliana asked one Saturday afternoon when I was back in Rocinha visiting my mom. We were sitting on the Leje, the rooftop, drinking beer and watching the sunset. I don't know, I said. He's busy a lot. Busy for a year? She pressed. Come on. What's really going on? Nothing, I insisted. He's just private. He doesn't like big social events. Juliana looked at me with this expression that was half concern, half frustration. Camilla, I love you, but you need to wake up. Guys who are serious about you want to meet your friends, want to be part of your life. Does he even know I exist? I took a sip of my beer. Of course he knows you exist. I talk about you all the time. But has he ever asked to meet me? She challenged. I didn't have an answer for that. My mother was more direct. One Sunday morning, I came home to have breakfast with her before heading to Rafael's place, and she said, Filha, when am I going to meet this boy? Soon, I said, spreading butter on my bread. You've been saying soon for a year, Camilla. She sat across from me at our small kitchen table, her eyes serious. Is he ashamed of us? No, Mom. Of course not. Then why? I don't know, I said, feeling defensive. He's just private. He doesn't like to mix his personal life with social stuff. Your family isn't social stuff, Camilla. Your family is your life. If he loves you, he should want to meet the people who made you who you are. I know, I said quietly. I'll talk to him. But I didn't talk to him because deep down, I was afraid of what he'd say. Afraid that if I pushed too hard, he'd leave. And I couldn't imagine my life without him anymore. He had become my escape, my fantasy. When I was with him, I wasn't just Camila from Rocinha, the girl working 2 jobs to make ends meet. I was someone special, someone worth waking up for, someone worth expensive dinners and soft kisses and whispered promises. I was addicted to the way he made me feel. And like any addict, I ignored all the warning signs. The beginning of the end started on a Saturday afternoon about 2.5 years into our relationship. Rafael had gone to the gym in his building, and I was at his apartment, waiting for him to come back so we could decide what to do with the rest of the day. I was lying on his couch, scrolling through my phone, when I noticed his laptop on the coffee table. It was open. He had been working on something before he left, or at least that's what he'd said. The screen was still on, just sitting there, showing his desktop. I wasn't trying to snoop. I swear I wasn't. But then a notification popped up in the corner of the screen. Facebook Messenger. Marco sent you a message. Marco was one of Rafael's closest friends. I'd heard him talk about Marco dozens of times, but I'd never met him, never even seen a picture of him beyond the occasional tag in Rafael's Instagram stories. The notification sat there, taunting me. I tried to ignore it. I really did. But that voice in the back of my head, the one that had been whispering doubts for 2 years, suddenly got loud. Just look, just once. Just to prove yourself wrong, just to silence the doubts. I reached for the laptop. My hand was shaking. I clicked on the notification and the Messenger app opened. Marco's message was right there at the top of the conversation. Bro, you coming to Juliano's party tonight? Haven't seen you in weeks? You hiding or what? Rafael had responded just minutes before he went to the gym. Yeah, man, I'll be there. Need a break. Living with someone is exhausting sometimes, you know how it is. I stared at the screen. Living with someone? I didn't live with Rafael. I stayed over a few nights a week, but I had my own place in Rocinha, my own life, my own space. Why would he tell Marco I lived with him? I scrolled up in the conversation, my heart pounding. And that's when I saw it. Months of messages, years of messages. I read them all. Every single one. And each message, my heart broke a little more. Marco, about 6 months into our relationship, had written, Dude, who's that girl you've been spending so much time with? Saw you at the beach with her last weekend. Rafael's response, she's just staying with me for a bit. Family situation, you know, helping her out. That was a lie. There was no family situation. I had my own apartment, my own life. Why would he say that? I kept scrolling. A few weeks later, Marco asked, "So how long is she staying, Raphael?" "Not sure yet. She's looking for work, trying to get on her feet." Another lie. I had a job. I'd always had a job. Then there was a message from another friend, someone named Giuliano. "Bro, bring your girl to the barbecue next weekend. Let us meet her." Raphael's response made my stomach turn. "Nah, man, she's not really the type for that scene. You know how it is. She's like my maid, bro. Cooks, cleans, keeps the place nice while I'm out. From the favela, Rocinha. Temporary situation. She'll be gone soon." I read that message 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. She's like my maid. From the favela. Temporary situation. She'll be gone soon. 3 years of my life. 3 years of believing he loved me. 3 years of defending him to my friends, to my mother, to myself, and to his friends. I was just the help. The cleaning lady from the favela who was convenient to have around. I kept scrolling, even though every message felt like a knife twisting in my chest. There were more. So many more. Different friends. Same story. Another message from Marco. "Hey, why don't you bring her around? We never see you anymore. Always holed up in your apartment." Raphael, she wouldn't fit in with us, man. Different world. You know how it is. Different world. Like I was from another planet. Like I was something other than human. Another friend, someone named Pedro. "Is she hot at least? Ha ha ha." Raphael's response, "She's all right. Good cook though, and the place has never been cleaner. I'm saving so much money not having to hire someone." They were laughing. All of them. Laughing. About me. About how useful I was, about how I cleaned and cooked and made his life easier while he pretended to his friends that I was just temporary, just convenient, just something he'd get rid of eventually. There was a message from about a year ago. Giuliano had written, "Dude, you still got that. You still... Girl living with you? Thought you said it was temporary?" Raphael, "Yeah, I know. It's complicated. She's got nowhere else to go right now. Trying to figure out how to end it without being a dick about it. Trying to figure out how to end it. For a year, he'd been trying to figure out how to get rid of me. While he was telling me he loved me, while he was holding me at night, while he was making promises about our future. I heard the apartment door open. My heart stopped. Raphael walked in, sweaty from the gym, earbuds in, completely oblivious. He pulled out his earbuds and smiled at me. "Hey, babe. Good workout. What do you want to do for dinner?" I just stared at him. The smile faded from his face. "What's wrong?" I turned the laptop screen toward him. His face went from confused to pale in about 2 seconds. He saw what was on the screen, saw the messages, saw years of lies exposed. "Camilla," he started, but I cut him off. "You told them I was your maid." My voice was shaking, but I kept it steady. "You told them I was temporary. You told them I was from the favela like it was something shameful. Like I was something shameful." He reached for the laptop, closed it quickly. "You weren't supposed to see that. Those are just... they're stupid jokes with my friends. They don't mean anything. Stupid jokes. For 3 years, Raphael." He ran his hand through his hair, that gesture he always did when he was stressed. "Look, my friends, they're complicated. They judge. They have opinions about everything. I was trying to protect you from their judgment. Protect me?" I stood up, my voice rising. "You were ashamed of me. You hid me for 3 years because you were embarrassed that I'm from Rocinha." "That's not true," he said, but his voice was weak, unconvincing. "Then why, Raphael? Why didn't you ever introduce me as your girlfriend? Why am I not in any of your photos? Why do your friends think I'm your cleaning lady? Why have you been telling them for a year that you're trying to figure out how to end things with me?" He didn't answer. He just stood there, looking at the floor, his jaw clenched. And in that moment, I saw him clearly for the first time. Not the charming guy who made me feel special, not the handsome boyfriend who took me to nice restaurants, but a coward. A man who wanted all the benefits of a relationship, someone to cook for him, to clean for him, to sleep with. Him, to make him feel good about himself, but who was too ashamed to actually claim me in front of his world, who was too weak to stand up to his friends, who valued their opinion more than he valued me. I grabbed my bag from the couch. "I'm leaving." "Camilla, wait, please," he said, stepping toward me. "We can talk about this." "There's nothing to talk about," I said, walking toward the door. He grabbed my arm, not hard, but enough to stop me. "Please. I love you." I looked down at his hand on my arm, then up at his face. "If you loved me, Raphael, you would have been proud of me, not ashamed. You would have posted pictures of us. You would have introduced me to your friends as your girlfriend. You would have brought me to your family gatherings. You would have made me feel like I was part of your life, not just a secret you kept hidden in your apartment. But I wasn't, was I? I was just convenient. Just someone to make your life easier while you figured out how to end it without looking like the bad guy." His grip on my arm loosened. "That's not... I never," he stammered. "Let go of me," I said quietly. He did. I walked to the door, opened it, and stepped into the hallway. Raphael stood in the doorway of his apartment, looking lost. "Camilla, please, don't do this." I looked at him one last time. "Do what, Raphael? Leave? You've been trying to figure out how to make me leave for a year. I'm just saving you the trouble." I turned and walked to the elevator, pressed the button. Behind me, I could hear him standing in the doorway, but he didn't come after me. He didn't beg. He didn't fight. He just stood there. The elevator doors opened, I stepped inside, and as they closed, I saw him turn and walk back into his apartment, closing the door, closing me out, just like he'd been doing for 3 years. I took the elevator down to the lobby, walked past the doorman who had seen me coming and going for 3 years and probably thought I was the cleaning lady too, walked out onto the street in Leblon, this neighborhood I'd never belonged to, and caught a bus back to Rocinha. The bus was crowded, hot, smelling like sweat and exhaust. I sat by the window, watching the fancy buildings of Leblon turn into the more modest buildings of Copacabana, then Botafogo, and finally the climb up the hill to Rocinha, and I cried. Not loud, dramatic sobs, just silent tears streaming down my face. An older woman sitting next to me put her hand on my knee. Vai ficar tudo bem, filha, she said quietly. Everything will be okay. I nodded, but I didn't believe her. When I got home, my mother took one look at my face and knew. She didn't ask questions. She just pulled me into her arms and let me cry. After I calmed down, I told her everything, about the messages, about the lies, about how he'd hidden me and lied about me and planned to get rid of me. My mother held my face in her hands. Camilla, men like that, they don't change. They think we should be grateful they even look at us, but you're worth more than his shame. Show him that. I didn't understand what she meant at first, but over the next few days, as the hurt transformed into anger, I started to understand. Rafael had humiliated me. He had used me. He had hidden me like I was something to be ashamed of. For 3 years, he had lied to everyone about who I was and what I meant to him, and he had gotten away with it, but not anymore. Now it was my turn. I spent the next 2 weeks planning. Rafael sent messages, dozens of them. Camila, please talk to me. I'm so sorry. I made a mistake. I was stupid. I love you. We can fix this. Please. Each message made me angrier. Now he was sorry? Now he wanted to fix things? Where was this energy for the past 3 years? Where was this honesty when he was telling his friends I was his maid? I didn't respond to any of his messages. Instead, I focused on something else. I wanted revenge, but not the kind that makes you look crazy. Not the kind where you key his car or post angry rants on social media. No. I wanted something better. I wanted everyone to see exactly who Rafael really was. I started by going through my phone. 3 years of messages between us. 3 years of photos. I had pictures he'd taken of me that he never posted. Private pictures. Me cooking in his kitchen, wearing his shirt and nothing else. Me sleeping in his bed, my hair spread across his pillow. Me laughing on his couch, holding a wine glass. Pictures that made it very clear I wasn't some temporary houseguest or cleaning lady. I was his girlfriend, and I had proof. Then I started researching. Rafael's friends were always posting on Instagram, always tagging each other, always showing off their lives. I found Marco's profile, public. Found Juliano's, public. Found at least 15 other guys, all from Leblon, all rich, all part of Rafael's social circle. I created a fake Instagram account. Nothing personal, just a random username with no profile picture. And I started watching. I watched their stories, their posts, their patterns. I saw where they went, when they went out, who they were with. I learned their routines, and I waited. I also went back through all the messages I'd seen on Rafael's laptop. I hadn't taken screenshots that day because I'd been too shocked, too hurt. But I remembered enough. I remembered the names, the dates, the specific lies he'd told. I made a list. Marco. Told I was temporarily staying there. Family situation. Juliano. Told I was like his maid from the favela. Pedro. Told I was all right, but mainly useful for cooking and cleaning. And there were others. So many others. I realized that over 3 years, Rafael had created an entire fictional version of our relationship. A version where I was convenient, but temporary. Where I was useful, but not valuable. Where I was from the favela. And that explained everything wrong with me. My friend Juliana came over one night, about a week after the breakup. We sat on my small bed, in my small room in Rocinha, and I told her everything. Every detail. Girl, she said when I finished, you need to destroy this guy. I know, I said. But how? Expose him, she said simply. Make everyone see what he really is. But how do I do that without looking crazy? I asked. You don't post about it, she said. You show up. You go to where his friends are, and you tell them the truth, face to face. Let them see you're not some temporary maid. Let them see you're a real person he lied about. It was risky. It could backfire. I could look desperate or obsessed, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized Juliana was right. Rafael had controlled the narrative for 3 years. He'd told his friends who I was, and they'd believed him because they'd never met me, never heard my side, never saw me as anything other than what Rafael described. If I wanted to change that, I had to show them. I had to make myself visible. I had to become impossible to ignore. 2 weeks after I walked out of Rafael's apartment, I saw my opportunity. Marco posted an Instagram story. Party at Juliano's place tonight. Leblon. Everyone's coming. Gonna be sick. And in the comments, Rafael had responded, I'll be there. I screenshot it. This was it. I spent the entire day preparing. I went to a salon in Botafogo, spent money I probably shouldn't have spent, and got my hair done. Really done. Blowout, curls, the works. I did my makeup carefully, more than I usually wore. Not heavy, but enough to make me look polished, put together. I wore the one dress Raphael had bought me months ago for some dinner we never ended up going to because, surprise, his friends would be there. It was black, simple, elegant. It fit perfectly. I looked at myself in the mirror. I looked good. Better than good. I looked like someone who mattered, someone who deserved to be seen. My mother watched me get ready. She knew what I was planning. Be careful, Fila, she said. I will, I promised. This is just me telling the truth, nothing crazy. She hugged me. I'm proud of you for knowing your worth. I took the bus to Leblon. It was a Saturday night and the city was alive. I got off at the stop near Giuliano's building. It was one of those massive luxury high-rises, all glass and steel, with a doorman and a gate and security cameras. I stood outside for a moment, gathering my courage. I could still turn back, go home, forget about Raphael, and move on with my life. But no. I had spent 3 years being hidden, 3 years being lied about, 3 years being treated like I didn't matter. I wasn't going to let him get away with it. I waited until I saw a group of people walking toward the building entrance, laughing, carrying bottles of wine. I walked up right behind them, smiling, like I belonged. The doorman barely looked at us. He just opened the door and let us all through. The group went to the elevator, pressed 15. I stood with them, quiet, smiling when they smiled, laughing when they laughed. No one questioned me. No one asked who I was. I was just another party guest. When the elevator doors opened on the 15th floor, I could hear the music immediately. Loud, thumping bass. The door to Giuliano's apartment was propped open, people spilling in and out. I walked in. The apartment was huge. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Leblon, overlooking the beach. Probably 50 or 60 people, all dressed expensively, all holding drinks, all laughing and talking. This was Raphael's world, the world I'd never been invited into. I scanned the room, looking for him. And then I saw him. He was in the kitchen area, leaning against the counter, holding a beer, talking to 2 guys I recognized from Instagram, Marco and Giuliano. He was laughing at something one of them said. Relaxed. Comfortable, like he hadn't just spent 3 years lying to all of them, like he hadn't just broken my heart 2 weeks ago. I took a deep breath and walked toward him. It took about 10 seconds for him to notice me. His eyes swept the room casually, then landed on me, and I watched his entire face change. The color drained, his smile disappeared, his body went rigid. He said something to Marco and Giuliano, then pushed through the crowd toward me, panic written all over his face. Camilla, what are you doing here? His voice was low, urgent. I smiled. Hi, Raphael. I came to meet your friends. You've been hiding me for 3 years. I thought it was time. His jaw clenched. This is not the time or place for this. Really? When would be a good time? You didn't seem interested in having this conversation any other way. People around us were starting to notice, starting to stare. Raphael grabbed my arm, tried to steer me toward the door. Let's talk outside. No, I said, pulling my arm free. Pulling my arm. Let's talk here. In front of everyone. Marco and Giuliano had walked over, curious. Bro, what's going on? Marco asked. Who's this? Raphael looked trapped. This is Camila. We need to go. I smiled at Marco. Hi, Marco. I'm Camila, Raphael's girlfriend. For 3 years. Marco's face scrunched up in confusion. He looked at Raphael. Girlfriend? But dude, you said she was. He stopped, glancing at me, then back at Raphael. I know what he said. I interrupted. He said I was staying with him temporarily, that I was looking for work, that I was like his maid from the favela. Right, Raphael? The room had gone quiet now. The music was still playing, but people had stopped talking. Everyone was staring at us. Raphael's face was bright red. Camilla, you're being crazy. This is not. Am I? I pulled out my phone. I'd prepared for this. I'd spent the last 2 weeks going through every message, every photo. I started showing pictures. Here's me and Raphael at the beach. Here's us at his apartment. Here's a selfie he took of us in bed. 3 years of pictures. 3 years of messages. I turned to the crowd. Does this look like a temporary house guest to you? Does this look like a maid? Giuliano stepped forward, looking between me and Raphael. Dude, what the fuck? You told us she was just staying with you while she looked for work. You said it was temporary. Raphael tried to defend himself, his voice rising. I can explain, okay? It's complicated. What's complicated? I asked. That you were ashamed of. Aimed. Me because I'm from Rocinha? That you lied to all your friends because you didn't want them to know you were dating a favelada? Marco's expression had shifted from confusion to disgust. He looked at Raphael like he was seeing him for the first time. Bro, that's fucked up. That's really fucked up. You lied to all of us for 3 years? Raphael ran his hand through his hair, that nervous gesture. Look, you guys don't understand. My family, they have expectations. Dating someone from, he stopped himself, but it was too late. Dating someone from where, Raphael? I finished for him. From the favela? Is that what you were going to say? The crowd was murmuring now. I could see people pulling out their phones, recording. This was going to spread fast. Raphael's girlfriend, some girl I didn't recognize, stepped forward. She looked horrified. Wait. You had a girlfriend this whole time? Raphael, we hooked up 2 months ago. You told me you were single. The room exploded. What? Who else? Multiple voices overlapping, and just like that, it all started coming out. Raphael hadn't just hidden me. He'd been cheating with multiple women, all while telling them he was single, available, just a carefree guy from Leblon with no commitments. One girl shouted, "We slept together last month. You said you weren't seeing anyone." Another, "We've been texting for weeks. You told me you were looking for something serious." The lies piled up, one on top of another. Each revelation made Raphael look smaller, more pathetic. He tried to defend himself, tried to explain, but no one was listening anymore. Someone yelled, "Get out, man. You're disgusting." Another person said, "I can't believe we were friends with you." Juliano looked at him with pure contempt. "Dude, you need to leave, now." Raphael looked around the room, desperate, looking for anyone who would defend him, but there was no one. Everyone had turned against him. He looked at me, his eyes pleading, "Camilla, please, this isn't what I wanted." I felt nothing. No pity, no sadness, no regret, just emptiness. "You did this to yourself, Raphael." I turned and walked toward the door. Behind me, I could hear the chaos continuing. People shouting, arguments, Raphael trying and failing to defend himself. I walked out of that apartment, took the elevator down, walked out of that building, and stood on the street in Leblon. The night air was cool. I could hear the ocean in the distance, and for the first time in 3 years, I felt free. The next few days were surreal. Someone at the party had recorded the confrontation and posted it on Instagram. It spread like wildfire through Rio's social scene. Everyone was talking about it. Raphael became infamous, the rich guy from Leblon who hid his favela girlfriend and got exposed. His friends stopped talking to him, completely ghosted him. The women he'd been seeing came forward with their own stories, posting on social media about how he'd lied to them, manipulated them, used them. His reputation was destroyed. I heard from a mutual acquaintance that his father was furious, that Raphael's mother was embarrassed, that they were considering sending him to São Paulo to let things cool down, but the damage was done. In Rio's social circles, reputation is everything, and Raphael's was gone. He tried to reach out to me one last time, a long message, sent 3 days after the party. "Camila, I don't know what to say. I fucked up. I know that. I was a coward and I hurt you, and I'm so sorry. I was ashamed of myself, not of you. Ashamed that I cared so much about what people thought. Ashamed that I let my fear control me. You deserved better. You deserved someone who was proud to be with you, who showed you off, who made you feel valued. I'm sorry I wasn't that person. I know you'll never forgive me. I don't expect you to, but I need you to know that what we had was real for me. Even if I ruined it, even if I was too weak to protect it, I hope you find someone who treats you the way you deserve. I really do." I read the message 3 times. Part of me, a small part, felt sad for him, felt bad that his life had fallen apart. But the bigger part of me, the part that had cried herself to sleep for 2 weeks, that had felt worthless and ashamed and small, felt nothing. He had made his choices. He had lied, manipulated, hidden me away like a secret he was ashamed of, and now he was dealing with the consequences. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. I deleted the message, blocked his number, and moved on with my life. It wasn't easy. The first few months were hard. I missed him. Or maybe I missed the idea of him, the version of him that existed when it was just us, alone in his apartment, pretending the outside world didn't exist. But I didn't miss the reality. The lies, the hiding, the constant feeling that I wasn't good enough. I threw myself into work, into school, into building the life I wanted. I finished my business administration degree, started planning my catering business. My mother helped me create a menu, test recipes, figure out pricing. We started small, just taking orders from people in Rocinha, friends of friends. But word spread. My food was good, really good. And I was professional, reliable, affordable. Within 6 months, we had regular clients. Within a year, I had clients from all over Rio, even some from the Zona Sul. Ironically, I moved out of Rocinha eventually, not because I was ashamed of where I came from, but because I wanted my own space, a fresh start. I found a small studio apartment in Botafogo. It wasn't fancy. It was small, just one room with a tiny kitchen and a bathroom, but it was mine. I paid for it with money I earned, and I was so proud. My mother cried when I moved in, not because she was sad, but because she was proud. "You did it, Filha," she said, looking around my small apartment. "You built this." I started dating again about a year after everything with Raphael, slowly, carefully. I met a guy named Tiago at a community event. He was a teacher at a school in Marais, another favela. He was kind, funny, smart, and he wasn't ashamed of where he came from. He talked about Marais with pride, about his students, about the community, about the struggles and the beauty. On our 3rd date, he posted a picture of us on Instagram, me and this incredible woman, Camila. I'm a lucky guy. It was such a small thing, just a picture, just a caption, but it meant everything because he wasn't hiding me. He was showing me off, telling the world he was with me and proud of it. We took things slow. I wasn't ready to rush into anything serious. But over time, I realized Tiago was different. He introduced me to his friends without hesitation. "This is Camila, my girlfriend." He brought me to family gatherings, made me feel included, valued, important. He asked about my business, supported my dreams, celebrated my successes. This was what a relationship was supposed to feel like: equal, honest, proud. As for Rafael, I heard through the grapevine that he eventually moved to São Paulo. Couldn't handle the shame in Rio anymore. His social media went quiet. His friends moved on. And me? I moved on too. But I never forgot what he did. I never forgot how he made me feel. Small, ashamed, temporary. And I promised myself I would never let anyone make me feel that way again. I'm Camila, from Rocinha, Rio de Janeiro. I'm a business owner, a daughter, a girlfriend, a woman who knows her worth. And I'm not anyone's secret. Not anymore. 3 years of being hidden taught me something valuable. It taught me that love shouldn't require you to be invisible, that someone who truly cares about you will want the world to see you by their side, that you should never accept being someone's secret no matter how much you love them, because you deserve more than that. Everyone does. So what do you think? Have you ever been hidden by someone you loved? Have you ever felt like you weren't good enough for someone's world? Or maybe you've been on the other side. Maybe you've hidden someone because you were ashamed or scared of what people would think. Either way, I want to hear your story. Leave it in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, if you've been through something similar, know that you're not alone. You deserve to be seen. You deserve to be celebrated. You deserve someone who's proud to call you theirs. Thank you for listening to my story. It wasn't easy to tell, but I hope it helps someone out there who's going through the same thing. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Favela Streetlight Stories for more real stories. From the streets of Rio, these are our voices, our truths, and they matter. Until next time.